leadership lessons and road ahead. For those of you that don't know Michael, he serves as the Chief Information Security Officer over at Grand Canyon Education. He plays a big part in this city with the cybersecurity community, so I imagine most of you probably know him. I'm not going to go through all of these bios because I could be up here for a long time. Unfortunately, Bianca Lochner, she was not able to make it this year because she does work for the city of Scottsdale, and with everything going on with the government, she was not able to attend today. But we are lucky to have Errika's Celsy? She works for the Arizona Department of Homeland Security. You guys can all come on up here and take a seat if you want. She's the Chief Privacy and Compliance Officer, and we're excited to have her today. I also have Joshua Wycoff. Again, he is from the government too. He's from the Judicial branch of Arizona and is it Maricopa? Am I saying that? Maricopa County? Maricopa. You'd think I would get that right. We've been coming here forever. He's the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer. And then I have Bindi Davé, who is a Field Chief Information Officer at Optiv. So again, we have Michael Manrod. They're going to talk a little bit about themselves, so I'll let them. You'll find out more, as they move into this fireside chat. I do want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, because they will open it up for Q&A, once you raise your hand, please wait for my tech team to come over to you with the mic so my virtual audience can hear you as well. So with that being said, everyone, let's welcome Michael, Errika, Joshua, and Bindi to the stage.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim, and thanks everybody for being here as well. Let's actually give a round of applause for Kim, for the FutureCon staff, and everybody who makes this happen for us every year. So really excited to be up here with some great friends and a great crew of experts here, and a conversation topic that I'm personally excited about, which is just kind of like looking to the future, like reflecting on 2025. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been quite a year. Like a lot of firsts, a lot of interesting milestones, from a cyber perspective and outside of our realm of cyber and tech. As we reflect on the past year, I think it's valuable to look at where the landscape has changed, look at what lessons we can draw on and learn from for the past year. But then also, we're at the inflection point. Who can believe we're at 2026 already? Is that surprising to anybody else besides me? Yeah, but as we look to 2026, I think we're all making our plans, we're making our budgets, we're figuring out what's ahead, what we need to be ready for. And from a leadership perspective, I really see this as a conversation about drawing on what we've seen in 2025, planning for 2026, and getting ourselves ready to thrive in chaos. So while we go into that, again, I'm Mike Manrod. I lead the security team for Grand Canyon Education and then teach malware analysis for GCU. And I'll kick us off to give everybody a chance to say the same. Something I'm stressed about the past year has been definitely the increased organization of cybercrime, of different groups specialized with each other coming together and making a better whole worse for us. And with that, we'll go just kind of, we can start with you, Joshua, and just kind of go down with an intro. And just one thing that's been like on your mind as possibly a concern or an opportunity coming out of 2025. Go ahead.
Yep, sounds good. So Joshua Wycoff with the Judicial branch of Arizona. I've been there a little over 2 years now, and really I think one of the concerns we've got, especially with the advent of AI, right, is how quickly it's really coming into our ecosystem, and what are we doing now to protect some of those systems and the data set. And really it's allowed me to have conversations I haven't had the opportunity to have before with leadership in terms of our data? Because let's face it, our data is our crown jewel at this stage.
Hi, I'm Bindi Davé. I'm Field Chief Information Security at Optiv, officer at Optiv, not all of security. Most recently, I was the head of, or Deputy CISO at Digicert and head of Global Enterprise Security at GoDaddy, internal roles, so excited to be here. You know, Josh, thanks for bringing up AI. I didn't want to be the first to bring that up, but what drives AI? Energy, right? So grid security is something that does keep me up at night, how we put energy in and take it out, as well as knowing where our data is, what identities are accessing it. So looking towards a good, robust conversation on that front.
Thank you both, and Mike. I am Errika Celsy. I am the Chief Privacy and Compliance Officer for the state of Arizona out of the Department of Homeland Security. That is not where I started my journey. I actually am out of K-12 for 17 years. I see some of my lovely colleagues in the crowd. Thank you for being here. And I think one of the things that's keeping me up at night, especially being in a government, public-facing role, we have had a very tumultuous political landscape as of the last year, and so it's caused a lot of uncertainties and a lot of unsettled, uneasy feelings for our staff, for the public at large, and so being able to kind of find a way to settle that turbulence moving forward is definitely something we're trying to aim for as a team.
Yeah, I love that, Erika, and it seems like it's interesting. Has anybody else had the sense, and you can raise your hands or your forks or fling a little tomato at me from that salad, but has anybody else noticed that as we look at AI, some of the biggest challenges have to do with people and how it affects people and the human aspect? Yeah, I see some hands. Luckily, no tomatoes. That's why they've given me this podium of protection here, so that I can ask people to throw tomatoes and then duck. But no, I love that theme. And kind of building on that, I would agree, AI has definitely been top of mind for me in 2025 as well. Did anybody else have to work unnaturally hard on your AI policy to get it done, approved, agreed upon? I think it took me 3 years and scrapping it and starting over at least twice. It was... I've never had a policy. The irony is I even tried getting AI to write it. That one got thrown out too. So, I think, as we look to AI, as we look to people, as we look to the threat landscape and technology, one thing that I think about, because I've worked in a few different spaces, but I've never worked directly with the courts. What are some things on the mind of local gov broadly, Joshua, and then also challenges specific to courts that you'd like to talk about?
So, the courts aren't really unique in terms of data. They are and they aren't, right? We have a lot of public information that is publicly available. Where our challenge is becoming now is, I actually just had a conversation with some leadership yesterday in terms of what data can I put where, and how can I track what data is going into these various platforms. If I have an enterprise version of ChatGPT versus a personal or even a free version, right? How do I know that? And yes, it took us forever to get our policy out, right? We've just got that pushed out. New acceptable use policy went with it. The long story short is that now that we've told individuals of what you can and can't do, well, how do I monitor that? And so now that's becoming the question of, well, how do we monitor that? And so we're working with various vendors to really get our arms around, again, where the data is going. Because again, that's really my challenge is our data set and how are we protecting that?
It's such a great point, Joshua, and something I've noticed is, sometimes setting aside my AI policy woes, it's pretty easy for me to write a policy. It's medium difficulty to get our engineers to deploy a technology. It's really difficult to get a business of any type, gov or education or any other type enterprise to actually go along with that enforcement. Having the capability to click contain on a device of somebody violating a policy is very different than clicking the button and the way your afternoon looks after you click that button. So I love that you talked about not just the policy, but also the follow through on it, because It's easy on paper, difficult in reality sometimes. Bindi, I think I love the perspective you bring right now of coming, kind of looking at things recently enough, transitioning to remember your old role, but into your new role enough to have a sense of like looking more broadly than where you came from. What do you think? When you look at like from the vendor perspective, when you look at like obviously security companies are more attacked probably than others. What do you see as the things that concern you coming out of 2025 and looking into 2026?
Sure. So even on this side of the fence versus before, and we've talked about this quite a bit, Mike, is our sense of community. We're all facing the same problems, right? Where is our data going? Who's accessing it? Do we have controls over the human and non-human identities? Are our configuration items patched? Is that patch good enough? Is our defense in depth defensible enough? How do we talk to the audit committee or the board on, did we mitigate the risk for the artifact that we didn't get enough budget for and they denied us, but every quarter, the board meeting, I got to show the maw of the charts closing, but I can't. And then the natural friction that's built within organizations, whether it's your technology, your CTO organization, or your CRO, or whatever that looks like, that, the CISO, or as cyber leaders, we're responsible for all of the data, right? And hopefully we talk about TPRM at some point, but I know that that's a whole nother panel in itself. That's third-party risk management, but we're responsible for all of it. But how do we actually have a voice in how some of these things are legislated, configured, brought into our environment? In a previous life, our CEO, without talking to our security organization or me, stood up in front of everyone and said, everyone needs to use AI right away. You need to be more efficient. I want to see more velocity. Oh, cool, bro. Thank you for that. So when you talk about where's your data going, on the other side, we didn't have budget for getting enterprise licenses of these things. So every organization, we are fighting similar challenges, and I see heads nodding for some of these things. Hopefully, I know they strike home to me. But where community comes in is our innovative and different ways of solving them, right? Is our cyber program led by what the existential threat is to the business? How are we relating those 200,000 vulnerabilities to verbiage that'll resonate with the business that says, okay, CTO organization, if there's one thing you can do in your sprint, this is that one thing, because it'll solve, X number of thousands of vulnerabilities versus Y. No one wants to see that raw data. It's how is it protecting against the existential threat to the business? So these conversations are important. These types of conferences are important, and innovation summits. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, that's so great, Bindi. And you said, I think you touched on two things that I'd love to double click on. One we'll come back to, which I think that business alignment piece. When I look to my 2026, I think whether I call 2026 personally a success or failure will depend on how well I get that one right. Go ahead. You want to add more there?
Oh, it's spot on. It's speaking the language of the business. That's a learned experience for me. The number of times I've gone in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and been like, "Hey, we reduced the risk on this, and I implemented zero trust across our CI/CD pipelines, and GitHub is now secure."
And then the CEO asks, "What's GitHub?"
Yeah. It wasn't secure before. Well, we don't have any breaches. Oh.
I love it. That's great. The other thing you said that I think passes the football right into the end zone for Errika is that this whole point on data and data governance and data life cycles. Like, Erika, one thing that makes me feel better about being an Arizona citizen is that you're in your job and that your job literally has privacy in the job title, right? Like, that's really refreshing. But like, what's your take on the data flows in AI?
Are you sure you sleep better at night knowing that?
I sleep better
Be
at night
careful what you wish for.
knowing that A, that you've got our back, and B, that I also have some great friendship bracelets to prove it.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I definitely, one of the bigger conversations surrounding AI, surrounding where our information is going, we're going more and more cloud-based with everything that we have to offer. And so we're not stopping to think about what is the potential outcome or unintended consequences of leveraging all these AI tools that are now becoming native to those solutions as well. And so one of the things that I strive to do is make it personal. We just talked a lot about policy, and we talked a lot about technical verbiage and things that might otherwise go over people's heads if they're not in the tech realm. Being able to make that meaningful to people is so important and so powerful. So one of the things, because traditionally compliance and privacy officers are lawyers and attorneys, I am not. Shocker, I'm sure. But coming into this, I knew that it was going to be my responsibility to be the steward of all of our information and make sure that our policies are aligned with what we should be doing for our citizens. So I wanted to find a way to take the policies and make them more palatable for everyone. So we went in and we made one-pagers. Also, insider tip, we used AI to make the one-pagers. But to the point made earlier, an enterprise solution, right? So we knew that we were protecting our data. We did everything with a very thoughtful approach, thinking through how are we going to pilot this, how are we going to make sure that it's safe, and then the outcomes that we're using, how do we then show our people that otherwise wouldn't be engaging in these conversations or thinking this way, look at what AI helped us do, and also, now can you understand what Policy 8110 is trying to tell you? Cool. Did we do two things at once? Did we show you the value of AI and how to use it ethically and appropriately? And did we also make something that would have otherwise been jargon meaningful for you to apply in your day-to-day life? So being able to internalize that and make it personal, you build and cultivate those practices and mindsets. They translate really well into your daily routines as an employee, not just as a human being. And so that's what we've been focusing on.
Yeah, and again, really wise takes, Erika, on the human perspective on this, right? Because as we look at AI, it's not just reshaping like what we can do, it's reshaping how we work, how we live, how people's sense of security in their jobs. I mean, who else besides me has gotten the question from some employee somewhere, hey, is my job in danger with AI? Like, anybody else get that question as the technologists of Arizona in this room? Yeah, right. Yeah, we wonder that for ourselves, right? Like, could I just, is there a CISO GPT I could just throw at my job and not need to come back? I mean, I'm going to quote Ryan Murray. I don't know if he's here at this moment, but he was on a panel maybe a year or two ago where he described kind of like the security analyst as the future as not like Ultron, not like Ultron, but like Iron Man, right? Human plus machine, good decision making, the intellect with the augmentation. And I think there's a lot of good paths forward, but then there's certainly all these, a lot of paths forward that maybe aren't good, right? And I think we are the discernment. We as technology leaders and experts are the ones to kind of begin to try to thread that needle between doing it and doing it right. Anything else you want to add on that one, Erika, before we pivot? No, you can pivot. Okay, cool. So I think kind of, the other thing that you touched on that I think steers us in a really interesting direction is meaning, right? And meaning to what we do, meaning to our projects, meaning to our products. And, going back over to you, Joshua, and I know, Bindi, you've got a lot of thoughts on this too, to follow up, like, how do we sort out the hype cycle? Like, when I walk into, like, I haven't been to RSA in a few years, but I walk around Black Hat every year, and you walk through the vast sea of the vendor hall, and you look at all those things and the buzzwords, and I mean, you can fill up your entire buzzword bingo card only walking 10 feet. Like, how do we sort the real meaning and innovation from the hype cycle that can just overwhelm us and drown out all real meaning?
Well, that there is part of a challenge, right? Let's face it. I mean, our leadership, our teams that we work with, if they all see and hear the same buzzwords, right? I mean, I get asked every day, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I'm like, that's great, right? So I think really for us, we've put the focus back on to what is our mission, what is it we're looking to accomplish, and what is the problem we're trying to solve. Anytime somebody comes to me and says, hey, we're looking at this new tool set, we want to buy this, we want to go purchase this, it's like, what is the problem? What are you trying to resolve with that? And they're like, well, I don't know, it just sounded really cool because the vendor said it was really cool and it was going to do all these things for us, right? Which they all do. I mean, it does everything, right? And that's where we have to step in as kind of those experts and help them walk down that path of where are you trying to get to, and let me help you get down. I'm not telling you no, right? I mean, usually not my first answer is never no. It's what are we trying to resolve with that, and let's just do it securely. At the end of the day, you're going to make a decision as a business leader to either accept this risk blindly or not, right? We're just going to go forth and do it. As long as I've given you the information to make an educated decision, then I've done part of my job. The next half of it is now coming back to secure it and make sure that it really does what we think it's supposed to do and continue to move that cycle forward.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? The validation piece is key. If somebody's making a bold claim, like, let's test it. Let's see if it actually works. Let's try to break it. And then I think that balance between alignment and figuring out, okay, if we're the no people in 2026 as security, how well is that going to go? When our CEO is saying, hey, AI everything. But if we're the yes, but how people, or hey, I know you look like it's like Clippy, you look like you're about to run with scissors. Would you like me to wrap that in paper, bubble wrap, and put it in one of those Amazon delivery boxes first for you? Or, because it looks bad that you're wearing it as wearing the scissors as an open necklace while running. All right, great, Joshua. Kind of pivoting over, Bindi, what do you want to add to that? Like, how do we slice through the hype cycle and get to the real meat of what we need to do as security leaders and decision makers?
Mike, I'm still stuck on how this necklace looks with the scissors and, definitely wrap mine in paper, please. Bubble wrap, all the above. So we talk about shift left. It's not just about getting earlier in the life cycle of whatever product delivery mechanism, right? It's also our attitudes and our mindsets. That shift left, Josh and Mike, to your point, goes from that no to a maybe to a yes, but how. And eventually, as our programs mature, maybe there's more leeway. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and anything I say no to, I can't. Like, she'll just argue her way out of it or circumvent or find another path. And ultimately, she's taught me how to raise my teams. So my ethos is better, faster, stronger, more secure. There are tons of vendors out there, and I work with quite a few VCs and startups as either design partners or advisory type relationships. And really, IDAM, right? I'll talk about identity as our new perimeter and identity and access management. There's hundreds of startups and, even what's a better word? Platform-tized vendors out there that have claims that may not be delivering. There's just constant, right? So when I look at all of those, and I don't have time, I'm one human. I'll go to as many innovation summits as possible, but ultimately I'll go back to you all. I'll go back to my community. Mike, I've brought vendors to you to say, hey, can you help me test this? Because I want to test their claims to it. Even companies that I've worked at, right? So I'll go back to my community and say, hey, here's an identity thing I'm looking for, or here's a vulnerability management, or I need a good pen tester that'll show me not what I want to hear, but what's actually what's actually possible, the art of possible in my environment, with the ethos, again, of better, faster, stronger, more secure. How do we do this quicker, more efficient? Because speaking the language of the business, that's what they want. Have we increased velocity, reduced risk, and then reduced the cost to get to whatever it is to market? So we have private signal channels, WhatsApp groups, right? Conferences like these where I'll throw it out there and be like, hey, Andy, what did you see recently in the vulnerability management space? That was pretty cool. And my my fellow CISOs, what are they doing in their programs that are innovative? So community is super important, and bridging between the public and private sector on that side.
Yeah, I think it's great, Bindi, that you brought up the role of people, because when I look at this panel, I look out at friends in the room. I can't see very far, so I'll pick on Daniel and Andy. Rich might be in there somewhere. I see Chris, but I need new glasses. But when I think of the best ideas I've had, and even more importantly, the worst ideas I've not followed through on, it's been all of you that help me as a leader to make good decisions and to avoid bad decisions. So kind of pivoting that around, Errika, what do you think the role of security communities and teamwork, and pulling together looks like as we face new challenges in the new year?
So can I go really basic here and say lead with why and connect back to what I said earlier? When you make things personal and meaningful for someone at like a human level, it gives a lot more authenticity to how they operate and see the world. And when you explain to them, hey, we're not going to put personal health information into an AI model that's not enterprise-based. Why? And give them the rationale behind that, it starts to become a lot more understood and internalized by everyone. Instead of just saying, don't do that, it's bad. Okay, but why is it bad? Teach me, show me, help me understand. Cultivate that mindset of like, I'm gonna go back to my K-12 days. I happened to be in the role of an integration specialist during COVID, and our teachers had to do this little thing called remote learning, and amazingly, no offense to our vendor friends, they came out of the woodwork saying, try this free for 60 days, try this free for a year. And I'm like, oh dear God, no. And I had to have a lot of really hard conversations with my friends, and I said, nothing is free. What is being monetized here? It's your information, it's our students' information, we're not gonna do that. But as soon as I explained to them the why, it was a lot easier to engage in those hard conversations of, I totally hear you, that could be an incredible opportunity for our students, but let's go about it the right way. Let's go through it, decide, is this something that we want to adopt as a district or even just at a school site, and talk about what information are we providing. And this was like on the cusp of individualized learning, which was really leveraging AI at the time, whether they realized it or not. And now it's right in our face. And if we still don't understand why we don't want to give information to these models and whether or not they're protected, we're going to haphazardly do these things. And by show of hands, because I'll admit to it myself too, how much more haphazard are you when it's your personal Gmail account to add an app or an extension or an add-on just because of ease of use? Do you sit there and read the privacy policy in terms of use on all of them, or do you just add it? I do, because I'm like, oh God, I just gotta get this done. But at work, we have a very different lens because we have to protect state information. And I'm trying to now go backwards, right? Change my mindset at home to match the mindset I'm trying to cultivate in our community to say, stop and think, is this something you wanna give them freely? Is this something they should have? Why or why not? So really kind of shifting the mentality to why are we doing what we're doing, and is this actually worth what we're doing is probably like the biggest battle. But it starts with culture and community. And I make the friendship bracelets so that I can build my community around me, so that I know in those moments where I'm like, oh my God, I really don't want to read this policy, can someone tell me, is this app or extension vetted? And I can lean into my community. I have built a structure around me that is going to support me and help me to make sound decisions and allow me to move swiftly because I have that powerhouse behind me.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's a lot of great wisdom there, Erika, and I feel the same way about the community and the role it plays in, you know, shaping like my work life and life in general. Did you mentioned the terms of service. Did you hear about that case where somebody had signed up for Disney Plus? This made the news maybe like a year ago. They'd signed up for Disney Plus and agreed to the terms, right? Like you scroll and scroll. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wouldn't read 800 pages at 8 p.m. on a Friday night over a glass of wine in 4-point font before I get my kids their cartoon. I'm probably not the only one who would click agree. Well, this lady later died, like I think 2 years later, of an allergic reaction because of being given a food she was allergic to on a Disney property restaurant. That Disney Plus agreement, in at least the first round of litigation, obligated her family to arbitration versus litigation because she had waived away all rights. So, I mean, of course, it doesn't mean there's no recourse, but there's a big difference between a court of law and arbitration when somebody died over it, right? So we're clicking yes all over the place. It's impractical to tell the kids, come back in 4 hours, then we'll start your movie. I'm gonna be busy here for a moment. I mean, maybe we can paste those Disney terms of service into an AI, but it's like the privacy concerns and the way we're forced to sign away rights, like it's concerning. Yeah, anything to add? You look like you have another thought on that.
Well, no, I was just going to say, and that to that point, we do have friends that are quickly looking over those and saying, like, this is a good decision, this is a bad decision, and knowing who your people are to have them around you and call, like phone a friend, is super important. I was really hoping he was going to make it today. One of my team, Chris Reynolds, is like the policy king, and I swear that man will digest black and white 4-size print in like, I mean, we call him Lightning McQueen because he's ka-chow fast. But he's my powerhouse, and I'm so blessed to have him on my team to be like, can you get your eyes on this and tell me, is this legit or not? And it's like an hour later, he's like, yeah, that's a no-go. And I'm like, thanks, buddy, I appreciate it. But having those people around us to help protect us and help protect business decisions and personal decisions is hugely important as we just continue to see the value of our data just skyrocket in so many ways.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, right? And that's where we can work together, we can leverage, and we can push back, right? Like if one person complains to Disney, maybe they've changed their terms of service, and so journalists got a hold of that, right? Switching directions just a little bit, like we've touched on, like when I think back, and again, some friends in the here who've been security leaders for a long time, when I think back to like the security leader of 2016 versus the security leader will need to be in 2026, what's back starting with you, Joshua, what's different? Like, how do we need to be different than we were a decade ago heading into next year? And it doesn't have to be CISO specific, but just security leaders and experts in general.
No, that's a good one. I mean, obviously, 2016, that was a great year, right? Actually, I had just gotten into security at that point, and life was so much easier. You stand up your SIM, I've got vulnerability management, I'm good, call it a day, right? Everything's doing what it's supposed to do. Fast forward to where we're at, right? Now I've got a SIM, I've got this program, I've got that program, I've got this, I've got governance, I've got all these different little silos now that have been piled onto this pile of what they now call a CISO, right? Full of responsibility that we have to now maintain. And so I think that's where we're starting to see, again, some of that shift of, okay, what is it I really need? Let's get back to the basics. Anytime I've talked to my team internal, right, it's, again, are we doing the basics correctly? Again, we go buy a tool because it's going to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, what is the issue I'm trying to resolve here? And so And even internally, right, I talk to our INO team, I talk to our network team, and I go, look at, can you just do the basics correctly? Let's get back to the foundational. Let's make sure that we have all those checks and balances in place. Now we can look to be innovative. Now we can look to add, the cool stuff as you would to our security programs and really kind of take it to that next level. Because if we're not doing the basics, and let's face it, we know that phishing end users, all of them, they're the weakest link. I can have all the blocking and tackling in place, right? But as soon as they click yes to that phishing email, I can't stop that, right? So at the end of the day, but there are things that I can do internally, though, to make sure that, hey, my systems are actually patching on a regular basis. I'm pushing out updated software on a routine basis. There's things that we still have to make sure we're doing that a lot of people just kind of ignore. They think it's to set it and forget it. It's like, look, you've got to continue to care for this. You have to give the love that it needs in order to make sure you can continue moving forward and not have to put so much stress and thought behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basics that get us every time, isn't it? Like we can, it's like that diagram that shows this really complex structure and then this little stick at the bottom holding it all up, that's DNS. But you could substitute the text of DNS for like 10 other simple things, and those are the things that often bring the castle down, no matter how much complexity we have to it. Bindi, how about you? And you can kind of pivot this two directions at your choice. One is, what's the security leader of the future look like? And then the other is, like, what are the basics you think people that we are commonly missed over and over again?
I'm going to answer both in a way that you said, show the love and harmonization. I think is important as we talk about our people, our processes, and our technologies. You guys have heard me talk about the golden triangle quite a bit. From our people side, Errika has talked a lot about a culture change, right? Bridging the gap between where folks think that there's a difference between your personal, how you act in your personal life versus your professional workplace. We're all just one person. Whether it's Bindi at work or Bindi with her friends or Bindi as mom or whatever, it's still the common denominator is Bindi. So if in my ethos, I understand how to govern myself appropriately, those same values are going to come and show up in the workplace. So are we building a culture of cyber defenders with continuous education and where they have accountability in it? And I'm happy to talk afterwards about some interesting ways that I've seen and hear if you have built a culture like that in your own organization. From a technology perspective, looking towards the future, Josh mentioned SIM. I have some gripes with the SIM, and if anyone does as well, I'd love to talk about that. But you have to pick which logs you're sending, and then you can layer a cribble or something on top of that. And people use their SIM as a hot storage, and it's expensive, and on it goes. This future of leveraging a data lake, throwing everything in there, leveraging technology, right? Whether it's, and I'm not going to mention any tools specifically, but how do you get a digital twin up there that's continuously threat hunting? How are you able to leverage all of that awesome telemetry that's coming from your CIs and being able to quickly correlate that into something that's meaningful, that has business context applied to it, right? That's not just some detection that goes off that says, hey, there's some unauthorized access on this box that really no one cares about because it doesn't have the privacy implications, the compliance implications, the legal implications. So on that process piece, this concept of, hey, security is separate, privacy is separate, compliance is separate. No, we're talking about trust. And effectively, that trust is all of those governing functions coming together. So your security, your privacy, your compliance, your legal requirements, right? In a sense of trust and having a controls framework from a process perspective to say, these are the existential threats to my business. these are the, TTPs that those can leverage. And if you don't have existential threats, some might be innovation, some might be, my last company was compliance, right? Losing public trust. But every company has that, and that's starting to speak the language of the business. Having a purpose-driven, I'm going to say that again, purpose-driven controls framework. Because every time you add a new control in the pipeline, it's going to cause friction. So what is purpose built for that business? And then being able to leverage the telemetry to find drift from that. So from your people, building a culture of defenders, both in their personal and their professional lives. From your processes, understanding what controls are important to the business. And from a technology perspective, you don't have to pick and choose. We have the data lakes and the technology available to make sense of all of the different signals and noise, so that we can drive meaningful work for our teams.
Yeah, I think that rolled it up really well. And as a security leader, what I was left with is, man, we've got a lot expected of us in 2026, right? Boy, I better eat my Wheaties or something. Well, I'm allergic to gluten, so maybe I shouldn't eat my Wheaties. But we got a big year ahead of us, huh? Kind of like building on that, and kind of as we all look to like a lot expected of us, whether you're a security leader, an analyst, an engineer, a vendor, working on the vendor side, like, it's definitely, if I look at 2020, looking at back to 2016 was a good year, to quote you, Joshua. It's definitely, I'd say 2025 for me was a much harder year to do my job than 7 to 10 years prior to that. As we look at that, Errika, what do you think we should be doing on the security leader and security practitioner mental health side? What do you think we need to be doing to keep ourselves and our people sane, grounded, healthy?
So, I mean, and I joke around that I'm the personality hire at work, but there's some truth in that jest. I think we lose sight of the human element so quickly, and I heard both of you, all three of you today, talk about how even with the integration and adoption of AI, we still need the human presence. But I think that thought still gets lost when we talk about business outcomes, right? We're just like, okay, we gotta have these metrics, we gotta meet these goals, we gotta do these things, check these boxes, yada, yada, yada. One thing that I will always come back to is business outcomes are never going to be achieved, or don't even matter, if the people that are here serving with you and for you don't feel like you care or you see them. And investing your time and your energy in making sure that you see them as human beings and know the intricacies of their lives. And I don't mean on a completely intimate basis, but have a general understanding of the people that report to you or work alongside you so that you can support them. Cybersecurity is super hot for burnout. I feel like everyone that I know in this room at some point has been like, I am exhausted. That's not a good way to operate on a regular basis. In fact, I just had this conversation last night about the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins. She says that you're not meant to live in survival mode all the time. Your fight or flight mode is only supposed to be activated when it's needed. So when we're constantly running at full speed, trying to make all these decisions all the time, we're actually dysregulating our brains. So on an anatomical level, that's impacting you personally. Think about that, how that impacts the people around you or the people that report to you and look to you for leadership and guidance. Take a step back, take a deep breath. The plates are gonna still spin while you do that. And one of the things that I've even imparted on my team is some plates are gonna fall and break, and that's okay. We'll deal with that mess together when the time comes, because we'll have each other together when that time comes. If that plate falls and breaks and we're a hot mess, now we've got an even bigger situation to clean up. So taking time to prioritize the things that matter to you, that translates into your leadership it translates and is received by the people around you when they realize that taking care of yourself on a mental and physical level, that supports, like, I'll be honest, if I feel like my team and my leadership trust me and have empowered me to do things, I may work even harder into the night or on the weekend just because I'm like, you know what? It'll make them feel 1,000 times better if they come in Monday morning and it's already done. I don't have to do that, but I want to because I care about the people around me. And I'm not saying work yourself into the ground to show people that you care. I'm saying let that be a natural byproduct of having prioritized yourself in other situations. So that's what I would leave you with.
See, that's outstanding. And yeah, I see like clapping, spontaneous clapping erupting to that. And also, it's really good you answered that, not me, because my answer was just to pull out more caffeinated beverages. So it's really good. This is why we need panels of experts and community. So thank you for that, Erika. We'll do a lightning round at the end, but let's take a moment and see what questions you have, from the audience. We can either, jump all it, and whoever wants to can grab it. Or you in the audience can specify someone specific too if you want. Cool, yeah, go for it, Greg.
As a quantum computer expert being asked to speak around the world on quantum policy topics and so on, the one specific to this group would be Q-Day. I'm curious how all of you are implementing, having trouble implementing, so on and so forth, the NIST PQ standards.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. Anybody doing anything with quantum or have comments on that? I have a thought if not, but go for it. I think it's, go ahead, Bindi.
Well, so I'm 2.5 weeks in, and this is one of the reasons why I picked my job with Optiv, is I can talk to you all about quantum on the field side. But, Greg, we've talked about this quite a bit, right? First of all, what I see a lot of organizations having challenges with is understanding where their crypto assets are to begin with, right? How many, by show of, actually you don't have to show your hands, just raise your hand in your head, because I don't know, this is an intrusive question a bit, but when's the last time you had an outage because someone forgot to check their mail because their cert expired or their credit card wasn't on file or that person was on vacation and you didn't have, CLM in place or automated certificate lifecycle management or, yep, we all died on that one. I think I had hands and feet raised in my head. So, that's part of it, right, Greg? Is first of all the challenge of, okay, here's your public and your private stuff that you've built in-house. Do you have an inventory? Do you know what it is? Do you know the dependencies of those things? And then, do you have automation in place? And then, are you able to have the quantum-ready keys, right, that are in place? So that starts, though, with every CSF and having identification and inventory. But if you guys as practitioners are doing something more interesting.
No, I think that was an outstanding answer. And I think that touches on like the two sides of the coin. One, I think the vendors are going to fix it, right? Like a lot of the major vendors already are shipping quantum ready cryptography. But then the other half is we all know we still have TLS 1.0 and unsigned SMB all over the place. So the fact that our vendors ship it does not mean we'll have it everywhere as quickly as we need to. So
I just want to add to that. I was recently at an innovation summit in New York, and one of the speakers said that.
Oh. You can take mine. Oh, there you go. Back up.
It's the vendor's problem. Let's be super clear. Though the vendors are solving it and they are getting quantum ready, as the CISO of your personal organization, and I joke that I'm on the vendor side, it is still our problem. We need to be holding our vendors accountable. We need to have an inventory. the adage of saying, hey, it's not my problem does not work when it comes to PQC, or that this isn't actually going to happen. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's never going to happen.
Okay, cool. Well said, Bindi. And it's a well-timed, it's rare that we would have an expert in that exact topic on the panel, so thank you for that. What else? I think we got time for one more question, and then we'll do lightning round.
Two observations. Errika made a comment about expressing the why for a policy. Doing that knowledge transfer to the organization and train the organization as to why open GBT is a risk versus a closed AI solution. That knowledge transfer is a critical ingredient. The other observation as a consumer, when I have a click-through, call it Disney Plus, whatever, screaming grandchildren, to be able to have access to it, the first thing I think about is, am I going to influence Disney Plus or whoever the organization is to change their T's and C's? As a corporate participant, depending on our buying power, yes, that's a possibility. So policy-wise, within the corporation, no click-throughs are allowed without legal and or procurement review. So you can create that stopgap to understand where the risks are. But I'll look at a couple of key sections as a consumer and say, what am I committing to while I'm committing? So just two observations.
What am I committing to when I'm committing? That seems like it should be the name of a new TV show. Go ahead, Erika.
So thank you for that. Okay, I've got to share just a little anecdote with you. My daughter told me, I hear this all the time now, but that I'm cringe. Yes, I am. Apparently I'm super cringe. But I made them stop because one of the biggest things, and I'll be honest, I don't know how many of you, I have a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old. They are obsessed with Roblox, and Roblox is the bane of my existence for so many reasons I don't have time to list. But I also fall victim of, I'm trying to cook dinner and I need you to go away. So yes, go play the things. The first time I actually made my 10-year-old sit down and look at a privacy policy with me and explain her, I said, this is what mommy does for work. And she's like, I don't care, I just want the game. And I'm like, this is why you're not gonna have the game. And I actually gave her the why. She sat there and she's like, well, that's terrifying. I'm like, you think that's terrifying? If I showed you Roblox, that's a whole nother level and you guys are already in that. But for all those reasons, you're not getting this game. Goodbye. But again, it's like, I have to physically undo, I'm not doing as I say, right? At least not from a home base. And so I've had to stop and pause and be like, don't just automatically approve their requests, have them come to me, let's have a conversation. And of course, my 6 and 5-year-old are never gonna understand a word that's coming out of my mouth right now, but my 10-year-old is starting to get it. She's been pleading with us since the pandemic for a YouTube, and I told her, over my dead body, and maybe not even then, but we're trying to really cultivate that mindset because they are the next generation, and if we're not engaging in these conversations with them, they're not gonna know how to protect themselves in a digital landscape. They're not gonna know how to use AI ethically and appropriately, which is why I feel so passionately about what's happening in the K-12 and K-16 arena. This is our next workforce, guys. If we're not starting the conversation, they are our digital natives and they don't know how to be efficient digital natives. We have to help them understand while we're learning alongside them. So I thank you so much for bringing that up and double clicking on it, because I think that's a conversation that should be happening with not just our workplace, but with our families.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Erika, and great question. All right, as we come to a close, let's do a lightning round with each of you. We'll do 1 to I'll say 1 minute, but we could probably eke to 2 and be okay for each of you. Thinking forward to 2026, like we really have a lot of the people in the room who might shape part of what the technology landscape looks like in 2026 in Arizona. So what advice would you give, if you had like 1 minute to convey everything you wanted to say remaining about 2026? And we'll start with you, Joshua.
So going in 26, really I think it comes down to, leveraging the people around you, right? I'm a lazy admin. I want the easy button. I know somebody else has solved this issue, or at least is starting down that path. Leverage it. I reach out continuously to my extended network of, hey, I'm researching this, or I have a problem here. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten even if it's a partial solution, right, that I can now adapt into my own environment or apply to my own team. And it's saved me so much time, right? I continue to my team, look, we want to be efficient in what we do. We don't want to do it just to do it. There needs to be a reason, and we want to be quick and fast and good at what we do. And leverage those around you. Leverage the expertise that is already out there. Spend the time researching. I tell them, stop. Take an hour out of your day and go listen to a podcast. Go do some training. Go do what it is you need to do to better yourself so that you can come back now and train the rest of the team, train myself, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well said. How about for you, Bindi?
Somehow I ended up with all the mics in front of me, so I'm glad you grabbed that. Errika talked about burnout. I experienced that pretty heavily. 2025 has been an interesting and challenging year. I'm looking forward to this new role that I have, and where I can work with CXOs and learn about many different organizations across public and private, and be able to bring that knowledge back to my community and really start building the bridges and information sharing. Tim Romer and Dara Gibson and I did a Sonoran LinkedIn Live earlier, and we talked heavily about bridging the gaps and building those bridges and information sharing. We've talked about community here. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, is bringing back mental safety, mental health into my own life, and spreading that across to my community as we solve cyber problems. But like you said, it's okay if some of those dishes fall, and I want to prioritize those dishes.
I'm going to be visualizing. Anybody want to make some dishes fall here? Just kidding, don't. I was like 10 seconds from catching Andy before he dropped that plate.
If there's any Greek folk in the room, we could just pretend we're having a wedding.
There we go. Now we're talking. All right, Errika, what do you got to kind of bring us on home and close us out here?
It's really hard to follow those two. So yes, I double click on both of what they're saying, prioritizing yourself, being the asset for your team, and then also making sure don't let yourself hit burnout, right? But I really do think my parting gift to you guys is, this is your community. Lean into your community, foster your community, and don't forget that there's power in numbers. So the fact that you guys are now, even if you've just met today, don't lose sight of that. I'm looking out at Scott, we met by chance, and you're a lifelong friend, and I know that I can call him for support on a multitude of things. I would love to be able to have those connections with everyone in this room, and I would encourage you to do the same. The reason for the friendship bracelets, maybe that's how I'll bring it home. Yes, I'm a massive Swiftie, if you guys couldn't have already picked up on the undertones. But truly, it's been a conversation starter and a culture shifter for me to go up to someone who otherwise probably wouldn't have talked to me, or I wouldn't have talked to them, and engage in a conversation and just say, hey, I'm Errika, what do you do? And getting to know the folks that are in this room has been such a treasured gift for me. Not just on a professional level, but on a personal level. So I'd encourage you to do the same and build your community more.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And you clearly practice what you preach in that regard. And thank you so much, Errika, Bindi, and Joshua, for you're doing a phenomenal job in this panel, and then also all of you for the great engagement and questions. Appreciate you being a part of FutureCon, and I'll welcome Kim back up as we close out to move on to our next activity. But thank you so much, all.
Okay. I actually owe you guys a big apology because the staff did not put your drinks out. So